This is Chris Sims.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodonick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
This is Danielle Smith, and welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing today? I want you to hold on. We're going to talk Silver Gold Bowl, then we're going to get into some other things, namely the Sask election live coverage coming up, because holy Dinah, do we got a lineup that is going to be one to remember and hopefully set the new standard for news coverage, election coverage that doesn't suck. But before we get there, Silver Gold Bolt, they're my go-to precious metals dealer with their complete in-house solutions, whether buying, selling, storing, or adding precious metals to your retirement accounts. And, price of gold. Heck, you know what? I should have done this. I'm going to do it as we're talking. Price of gold is a measure of trusting, trusting government, that is. And I just want to pull it up here. I'm going to go on the Silver Gold Bull and just see what the price of gold is sitting at. Oh my goodness. This is an absolute mountain. It is up to $3,600 for an ounce. That's Canadian. That's Canadian. I want to make sure that's Canadian. If you're a U.S. listener, here we're going to pull that over too, and we'll just go up there. Oh, maybe it's not going to show me. Why doesn't it want to show me, folks? I don't know. You get the point. Doesn't matter. It's at $3,600 Canadian for an ounce of gold. So I could sit here and tell you confidently that trusting government, nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares about listening to the government. That's what I mean. That's where the nobody cares comes from. So if you're sitting here listening to me jabber on about this, Silver Gold Bull has exclusive offer for SMP listeners on quarter-ounce gold coins from the Royal Canadian Mint. For anyone looking to protect their savings with physical gold, these low-cost fractional coins are a great buy. Text or email Grahame down in the show notes for details. If you're on silvergoldbull.ca.com, just make sure to reference the Shaun Newman Podcast whenever you're making a purchase. Help you, help them, help me. Win, win, win. And love all the support from all of you guys. Now, Kristen McGowan, she is running for Division 7 Northwest NWSD trustee position. Why can't I think of what that all stands for? It's a school trustee. I don't know why I'm spacing on Northwest School Division. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I can't believe that just happened on here. Well, there's no editing that out, folks. So this is what she says. Why I'm running. I'm running for school board trustee because I believe in the potential of every child and the power of education to shape their future. I'm committed to ensuring that our schools provide the best possible resources and opportunities for all students while also promoting fiscal responsibility and collaboration among educators, parents, and the community. With her experience in business, with my experience, I'm paraphrasing here. This is Kristen's words. With my experience in business, my expertise in financial management, and my dedication to fostering inclusive and supportive learning environments, I'm confident that I can help guide our schools towards a brighter future, one where every child has the opportunity to thrive, free from divisive influences that undermine their potential. Together, we can build a school system that empowers every student to achieve their goals and contributes to the strength and vitality of our community. She says, thank you for your support. Let's work together to create a stronger, more vibrant future for our children. And she said three key issues. Holy mackerel, Shaun. I want to see addressed in the election: parental rights and inclusive education policies, funding and resource allocation, and curriculum changes and monitoring of new testing policies adopted. That's Kristen McGowan running for school trustee. So that's pretty cool. One of the longtime advertisers on the podcast stepping up for the community. So if you're able to, you're in the Northwest School Division, give her a look up and go vote for her. Okay, Sask provincial election coverage, October 28th. Yes, that's Monday. That is coming up right around the corner. Here's some of the names that are going to be on there: John Gormley, Jerry Ritz, Ken Rutherford, Lee Harding, Wayne Peters, Nadine Ness, Quick Dick McDick, Brad Wall. You heard that right. Lise Merle. So there is, and Jamie Sinclair. Geez, he literally is on today. And Jamie Sinclair is going to stop by. So we have a action-packed Sask election night coverage, October 28th. We hope you'll tune in for it. Subscribe for free, Substack. It's easy, done, boom, you go subscribe. It's free to do. Now, this is the first week. Yesterday, on Wednesday, I put out my first guest edition of the Substack. It was from Matt Arrett, an article on basically the forming of Canada and some of the things, if you listen to Matt Arrett, it goes pretty in depth into the Fabian Society and a couple other things in there, and just talks about the underpinnings of Canada. And part of it is free to read. The other part is for paid subscribers. So if you want to go read Matt Arrett's work, you can do that. That was the second article that came out this week. Of course, every Sunday night, it's a free week in review. You can get caught back up on everything podcast. So make sure to subscribe to the Substack for free. And if you so choose, become a paid member. We're trying to add some value to your life every step of the way. And hopefully this new one with guest editions, maybe on Wednesdays. We'll see how it goes here for the next couple weeks. We'll see what you guys think of it. Cornerstone Forum. It returns May 10th, 2025. Here are some of the names that you can mark down. Tom Luongo, Alex Craner, Chuck Prodonick, Chris Sims, Tom Bodrovics. Those 5 confirmed. It's going to be in Calgary at the Winsport May 10th. Early bird tickets are up. They won't get any cheaper than here, folks. So go down in the show notes. You can pick up a ticket today, and we hope to see you in Calgary in 2025. I got to say a huge shout out to Silver Gold Bull and Bow Valley Credit Union. Those 2 companies stepping up to be the major sponsors of the event. I think, without those 2, there's no way it was going to Calgary specifically this year, and they stepped up and made a very convincing argument, and that's where she's heading. So Calgary, buckle up. That's where we're going to be. Finally, Friday, November 29th, SMP Christmas party bringing in dueling pianos to the Gold Horse Casino in Lloydminster. I got 4 tables left. If you're a company sitting out there, reach on out, down in the show notes. Would love to have you. Fill it up. It's going to be a great night. All right, let's get on to that tale of the tape. The first spent 33 years in the Canadian military. He's a former member of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry and served in 4 tours overseas. The second, a retired sergeant of the Canadian military, a former member of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, who also served in 4 tours overseas. I'm talking about Jamie Sinclair and Chuck Prodonick. So buckle up, here we go. Wow, welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast, I should say. I got Chuck Prodonick, Jamie Sinclair back in studio for, another version of the military roundtable, I guess. Either way, thanks for making the trek today, boys.
Good to see you again, dude.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Now, before I get anywhere...
The booty.
The booty, that's right. There's the keychain, the Freedom keychain. There's the 1 ounce of silver. On yesterday's intro, Jamie would have been talking about, I introduced him to silver, so I guess I'm happy about that.
And gold.
And gold, yes. But he said, I'm a lead guy.
Yeah, I got way more lead.
Yeah,
it's easier to exchange.
Well, it's going to be the most valuable commodity once it all happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't much gold being traded around in too many civil wars I've been at, but lots of lead.
I will say this, in my time when we were overseas in 94 in Bosnia, Croatia, in that area, like when their fiat currency became, wheelbarrows couldn't buy you a loaf of bread, then you started to see other things being traded. And I don't know that I necessarily saw coinage of any sort, but
in my area, it was the Germans. The German made new currency for the Croats, and it looked just like the Deutsch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like they funded that whole war for them.
But people think, well, stuff like this is a lark or some sort of crazy conspiracy thing to get into. But we've both been to places in the world, not just there, where you are trading batteries or a skill set or a bit of diesel or some sort of food for your next meal or the thing you need or an item and it's not tapping your card at the. Yeah, that convenience is gone.
Yeah, so. and like when I worked in Africa, like it was just like it was machetes instead of bullets, right? Like they were ruthless. Like they needed something, they were getting it. So yeah, it's a different world out there once society breaks down, and you got to be able to protect yourself and. Number one weapon is your brain, right? Like if you're smart enough, like when I worked in Africa, I didn't have a gun or nothing. But I used my brain and it got me out of a lot of situations. The best thing I did over there is my main interpreter. His daughter got malaria, and I actually spent money on it was like $5 it cost me to get her all the medication she needed so she'd survive, and that man would have jumped in front of a bus for me. Like, so, and that goes back to the golden rule that you're taught when you're a kid, and doing the right thing as Canadians, like that saved my life too, right?
Yeah.
So
building those relationships, yeah.
I got given a book by Ken Rutherford, so shout out to Ken. The Dark Secrets of HSTF Survival by Selko Begovic. Have you ever heard of this guy?
I've heard of him, yeah. I haven't read his book, but I have heard of him, yeah.
I'm reading it right now, and basically he's, Bosnia, right? He's in the middle of when it all went down, and he's talking about, to me, like, once it goes wild, I don't think anyone can ever explain to you until you're probably in it, right? It's like, if you've never been in a fight, I just mean even like an actual where you're getting punched in the face, you could talk about it all you want. You can do all the theory you want, but until you actually get punched in the face and know what it feels like and know that you don't die and know that it's almost like this adrenaline rush and you go, oh, I didn't realize, and then the pain kind of seeps in afterwards.
Yeah.
What he talks about in this book, I'm like, there's parts of it I can't even grasp. Other parts that I find really intriguing is what me and you were talking about, Jamie, before Chuck got in the room, was like, it starts with a divide. It starts with a narrative. It starts with censorship. It starts with them pitting two sides against each other. These are the little signs you can start to see. And he talks about it in his book. He talks specifically about that. I find that really intriguing because of, like where we were through COVID and where we sit now.
Well, you look at what they did is take them specifically, and I don't want to pick on them. I'm not picking on them. It's just it's a very recent and we lived those moments over there where we saw certain things, experienced certain things, and it only took them less than a small generation's worth of time to pit them. And I mean, they had cultural, religious lines to do it with, and identity lines to do that with, and they did it quickly and pitted them. You look at the time frame they pumped it through us in COVID, and now we're talking social media, government affected media, all of this kind of things. We had snitch lines. We had people willing and happily ratting each other out if you didn't wear your mask properly at wherever you were, or you weren't following the stupid arrows on the floor that must have been saving tens of lives around the world on the floor in the grocery store. It took them 2 weeks to have people, a segment of our society were willing capos. They would have been happily turning people in for snitch lines, ostracizing family members. You extrapolate that, and it doesn't take a big brain to extrapolate how quickly that devolves into, well, you already heard them saying camps. That word camps was thrown about in regular media here in Canada by big named people here in influencers society.
Well, Trudeau said it himself when he was in that French meet, or when you're sitting down in Quebec and talking about putting these people somewhere and things like that. So
the language he used about not letting them take part in normal society, and
but going back to what you were saying there, Chuck, like when Henry and I came up here, SAS Hockey was going to get a volunteer from the teams to take sensitive medical information from individuals that weren't vaccinated. And Henry came up with a great idea about just have everybody's name on the list and everybody tests for COVID. And if there's somebody that doesn't test negative, then they're scratched for the game. And then that way you're not asking if you've been vaccinated or not vaccinated. If you've got, you're just basically seeing if their COVID test was positive or negative. And the willingness of people to want to be the person to take that information, it was fucking scary, because it reminds me of Croatia, Bosnia, Africa, and those people that are willing to
I use the word capos. You probably historically what that word means from like the camps in World War II. Capos were prisoner inmates who were coerced. There was coercion, rewarded, any tool you could use to lever them into becoming an overseer of their own prison population. These capos.
Yeah, that's survival though.
It's survival.
When you're in those situations,
and I don't mean to take
survival
away from what that word really means. But the first word I thought of when I saw these people happily, wanting this information, they were.
I wouldn't think they'd be capos because those people are survival. These are like these people would be like Gestapo type people that believed in what they were doing so much that they would put on a brown shirt and turn you in.
Oh, in a heartbeat. It was all fabric of the same recipe for sure. It just it blew my mind how quickly, especially after what we've seen over there, how quickly normal civilized people who've really never suffered a day in their lives over here. We joke about first world problems, and it's true. We've been to lots of places in the world who get by on nothing and have real problems about where am I going to get the next meal, clean water, some medication, and you see these people. We joked about the toilet paper thing. The first 2 weeks people couldn't find toilet paper. What a weird thing to run out of, but that happens. But while this was happening, I was like, I don't have to leave my house for 6 months. Even then I could stretch that. If something happens, I don't have to leave my home for at least 6 months, or I have other contingencies in place where I'm good for a long, significant amount of time. And these people were going out, couldn't get toilet paper. I'm thinking, what else don't you have? What are you going to eat if the stores go past their 3-day turnaround on food? They have a just-in-time replacement at grocery stores.
But hey, Chuck, just to circle back though, like Canadians, like when I was in Normandy and you guys got me on there from Normandy and I was bawling like a crybaby and would have used up boxes of toilet paper for tissue rags for wiping my eyes. But the thing was there is that they've been occupied and they've had their freedom taken away. And what they teach their kids there is way different than what we're teaching our kids.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between being a nation that's never been occupied by a foreign power compared to what is going on or what is being taught in Europe, like to the kids from
that's a great point. You go to a place like Holland where they revere Canadians. You look at what they do with the Canadian graves over there in this Canadian soldier cemeteries. Several times a year, they're lit up. They're beautifully taken care of. They teach Canadian soldiers history there because it was Canadians that liberated them. Here in Canada, and I'm not talking.
Not only that though, Chuck, the Dutch would have starved to death.
Yeah.
Like the Germans were starving the Dutch, and the Canadians are like, all right, let's have a 10-day break, ceasefire. You guys get your dead, and we'll feed the Dutch. And the Germans are like, no, we're not doing it. So then they carried on with the battle, and about a month later, like the Canadians said, okay, let's do a 10-day ceasefire so we can airdrop in food for the Dutch.
Yeah.
And that's why they love Canada, because if it wasn't for us, like thousands would have perished from starvation.
You contrast that with what we're showing here in Canada about, I'm talking our history in general. We are colonizers. We're the worst people ever. We should apologize for our history going back to when we first set up a farm in this nation, because it's all our fault. Everything is our fault, and how dare we have done anything? It doesn't matter.
I go back to when you and Henry came and you just talked about it. Just starts with this tiny little divide. Just tiny. Doesn't have to be that big, just tiny. And I see it all the time now.
Well,
right?
look at
all it is just pitting.
Look at what happened after that. The trucker convoy happened.
Actually,
but
before that happened, what happened before that was they started talking about how we were filling up the hospitals, and they kept ramping it up, and that divide kept increasing.
And then there was a lockdown in Quebec. They locked everybody up. All the people in Quebec couldn't go out of their houses.
They had the curfew and everything.
So
it actually ratcheted up further and further to the point, I've told this story a few times, to where the book club met out in the middle of the pasture, no phones, no nothing. Everybody was just terrified. And they're like, are we leaving this country? Like, how? What are we gonna do here? Like, it didn't look like there was any hope.
Yeah,
it was just, and every time I have somebody on to talk about that lost their job, lost this, lost, 10 different things from that time. That's what it always comes back to, is they choked it out, and so you go, I'm, in a way thankful for that time, because it's really opened my eyes to how quickly things can go. When they talk about how quick The difference now is I just think, there's so much conversation happening like on forums like this that open it up and you get to think about, that is interesting. You get to still see what they're doing and it stresses you out. It's why I wanted to have you two in here.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring it to the rhythm of life, right?
Actually, you just made my hair stand up. If we could go back to that.
Sure.
Like what we've learned.
What hair would that be?
Yeah, really, right? It's on the back of my neck. I got lots back there. But so what we've taught our kids is like to stand up, don't say no, like don't say yes to everything that's being taught to you. But we're kind of getting complacent because right now, let's think about what's going to happen. Like when Trump comes into power, all those immigrants are coming to Canada, right? And we are so close to losing our identity as Canadians and our values. And if we don't get ahead of this tsunami that's going to happen like in November, we could seriously lose our country and it'll turn into a third world country. And the reason why I say this is because when I was working in Africa, apartheid was ended and the blacks took over South Africa. And all the old blacks that worked with me, they liked it better when the whites ran the country because there was stability and there was law and order. When like if you're in Africa or there now, there's no law and order. People are being murdered and it's just chaos. And I can see that in the future for Canada if we don't get ahead of this because it's something we should be talking about.
But how do you get ahead of it?
Well, you got to start. Well, first of all, people that are coming across the borders, we've got to figure out a way of getting them back to their nation that they came from, because they're illegal immigrants that went into the States, and they're going to be illegal immigrants coming into Canada. We can't house any more illegal immigrants, and we're not talking 100,000 people. We brought in an extra 1 million people this year, and last year we're already swamped. There's literally going to be hundreds of thousands of immigrants flooding our border after the 5th of November.
Like, you think your hospital wait times are ridiculous now? You think going to buy a home will be easier down the road? I mean, there's no homes for people to move into.
You're a good man.
There's no hospital.
I like drinking, Shaun.
There's nothing. There was nothing already, and you think our classrooms are you think the classrooms are any less packed right now? There's nothing left, and we're still bringing people in. And let's take India for example, because obviously that's the one that's foremost on most people's mind right now. You have Jagmeet Singh trying to go to war with Modi and India over this Khalistani conflict. Which, why is that a thing in Canada? Well,
it's taking the heat off them.
It's taking the heat off.
Yeah, that's the only reason he's doing it.
But you take India just as the example, and I'm not picking on India or people from India. I don't give a shit what you think. India is the largest democracy in the world. What are people fleeing from? Well, they need a better way of life. Do it there. You're coming here.
They're not fleeing India. They're coming here to take over.
They're coming here to take over.
They're not fleeing
all
India.
These fraudulent immigration offices that are being busted one after the other, basically ripping off the people that they're purporting to help and then just dumping them. Like take your 20,000, because you have to show 20,000 bucks in the bank account to do part of these programs. It's all fraud.
So here's the other thing. So yeah, India, they've had some people murdered in Canada. Guess what China does? China, they come knocking on your door, and they say, "Here's a plane ticket. You got to go back to China to be investigated for following whatever rule. Like you're doing something that the Chinese government hates. Once you're back in China, then they kill you there. So they're killing just as many Chinese Canadians." But they just send them back to China to do it.
Yeah,
and they willingly go, because if they don't, then their family
gets killed too. So I mean, that's why they have these Chinese police stations here. That we have foreign countries' police stations here. Like, it's mind blowing that this isn't like just done away with. Like, I can't fathom.
Can we take a time out here? I just got to talk to you about something real cool. Okay, look at this thing from Keon Vermont, the Patricia flag. Yeah. Hey, isn't that cool?
That's pretty cool.
Do you happen to have your coin on you?
That's in my jacket.
That's not a good excuse.
Well, it's over there in my jacket. What do you want?
Well, go get it.
Oh my Christ!
This is a beer on the line. I've been just vibrating over here waiting to do this to him. Oh, he better have it. Oh, fuck, he does. Oh, wait, that's not your regimental coin.
That's not a regimental coin.
Yes, it is. 2 Commando. Fucking Canadian Airborne Regiment, motherfucker. You were never in 10th Mountain.
But I got the coin from their general.
Doesn't matter. I got one from the CDS. I don't carry his coin.
I got this for snapping a bunch of dudes.
Yeah? I got one from the CDS for killing.
Wait. If I get in on the coin game, I didn't do anything. You give me a coin.
He's buying a beer. He's buying us a beer. I
tried in the backstory of this. Jamie walked in, and in the first 2 minutes, I threw down my coin. And he's like, throwing down coins on me? I'm like, well, you gave it to me.
That's a beautiful coin, by the way.
You got yours for falling out of airplanes. This is for derping dudes.
I was in the one I got from the CDS. I got it in Afghanistan.
Did you?
Yeah, he handed it to me when I was doing.
Ooh, Hillier?
Yeah, Hillier.
I got a Juneau Beach D-Day 80th anniversary coin, and I got it for bringing military men on. I'm quite happy with the reason I have my coin.
That's an awesome coin.
Yes,
it is a great coin.
You're an honorary rifleman, actually. I'll get you a little certificate.
I'm just laughing because now anytime I bring any military guy in, it's going to be on the table.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to try it on Jamie just to see if he remembered.
He doesn't go anywhere without it.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
Not even in the shower.
You weirdo.
Did I tell you that joke? Or not joke, but that story?
No.
I'll tell you later off camera. There's nudity in it.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, we were talking about China, okay?
Yeah.
We got...
horribly sidelined.
Okay. I want to do Rhythm of Life. I don't care if we go back to China.
Yep.
One of the things that happened was I called Chuck after it happened. I interviewed retired Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Murray from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He started talking about how many millions of people have come across the U.S. border into there illegally, and the fact that in the lead up to the U.S. election, there was going to be like terrorist attacks. And he gave off 4 dates. And in fairness, I don't blame him for the 4 days. I take that information and I try and store it somewhere, but it worked me up. I was just like, holy crap, if this actually happens and I don't tell people sooner, as soon as I get off of it. And Chuck put this thought in my head, and I'm like, oh, this is why you're here. I want to talk about the rhythm of life, because as things get more hyperbolic, right? As things start to increase, and these two haven't heard it yet, but I just got off with Tom and Alex, and one of the things that came out of that conversation is they dampened the fire of all the stuff, of Iran letting off this and that happening there, and like Israel's going to go full scorched earth on Iran, and they talked about, well, actually it got leaked, and that means if it got leaked from these levels, and that means there's good people trying to dampen this down. And they actually brought me back down, and I thought, rhythm of life. So you all of us are taking in all this information. Now, if you're in the military, you've been living in a world, especially when you were deployed, of like people are going to try and shoot at you, right? You're going to be in this hyper sensitive time for the entire time you're deployed. Us people sitting here, like I just think all my life until I was, I don't know, probably ran into you two guys, I didn't think anything of anything. I didn't, I was as naive as it gets. And now I have these people come on, and I'm like, I don't know how to store this information and not be a little bit frazzled.
And not react to everything. I remember the day that you called, that morning you called because you had plans, some stuff going on, a little bit of a trip and all that. And you're like, dude just said that this is going to happen like in the next few hours. And like just rhythm normally, always have your head on a swivel. Yeah, but you can't. The moment you start over adjusting your life and your plans to everything what you've just gone down the Alex Jones trap, and I'm not knocking Jones here. I mean,
I'm knocking him a bit,
a little bit, but it is that overhyped sense of disasterbation where people are just like the next disaster, this. We talk about this pattern of life that him and I basically, that's the survival skill you attain in a conflict zone or in any sort of place that you're under constant threat. You have to establish and learn and adjust to patterns of life that you're watching, and that threat level will bring up your cue and your spider senses, your gut feeling, all these things. When we come back from a place like that, especially when you've seen active combat for months and months and months, everything is still hyper-focused. You're hyper-vigilant. I'm driving in the truck and some asshole cuts me off and I'm like, my hand instantly reaches where my rifle would be. And that went on that's hyper-vigilance that goes on for months. And then you're like, dude, everything in the news that I'm watching is like, oh Jesus, this is a trend. You have to bring yourself out of it. You have to work your way out of it, but you still will always apply those patterns of life to what I'm watching in the news, what I'm watching in my country, what I'm watching in my neighborhood. Those trends, if you're not seeing those trends, if you're not able to determine those trends and just wipe them off as, well, those racist assholes, or they're overreacting, or they're... Go ahead, be the guy that's not ready. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, Chuck's right though. Like, if you stop running your life the way that you want to go because of something, then they're actually getting to you.
They're winning.
You're going to drive yourself insane.
Yeah.
So like, my son's going to go play in Boston here. He's leaving on Friday, and obviously November 5th is coming. I've already kind of started formulating an exit plan for him to get the fuck out of there. But I'm not going to talk to him and say, don't go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell him all this scary shit and make him not focus on hockey. Like, but as a dad, like I'm thinking, how the fuck do I get him out of there? Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be reaching out to some people that hopefully know somebody in the area that he can meet and have somebody there that I can trust, right? And
that's how it has to be as the parent. My kids already know I'm crazy on some level, but I don't ever sit there and form the family up and say, well, then today in Iran and Israel's conflict, this is what's going to happen in 2 days, or look at what in the Ukraine-Russia war, what's happening. You can't do that to your family, your kids.
No.
If you call or we call each other, or a few other vets I know are like, dude, are you seeing what I'm seeing? I'm like, yeah.
Well, we do call after Trump gets shot. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like,
Well, I was sitting in the
that
States.
was important.
Right now, what did I text you both? I'm like, I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah.
Sitting in the States because
that's a big moment. Yeah. That's a real moment.
That could have triggered.
That could have triggered.
Fucking
Had
shit.
he gone down, dude, I was watching that live, and we've talked about this, and we've talked about this. The moment when he went down under that dog pile, when he did this, I thought, oh, he's been hit. How hard was he hit? Like when he took the hit and he reacted to his ear, and he went under the dog pile. I thought if they snapped him hard enough and he just had that, your body's going to react. The synaptic nerve system is just going to, whether you're dead or not, it's going to have a reaction. And I thought, fuck, if he's dead, we're at war. And I waited. I don't think I breathed for like the 10 seconds it took them to get him on his feet. And I'm like, we're not going to war yet. Yet. But if they get him, and they've tried now one other time at the golf course, and that other idiot that got pulled over
we were
with the
talking
guns.
about last time, and I mentioned, you're like it's going to happen again. And my biggest thing is it'd be something in his aircraft.
I agree
right?
too.
And,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Like if it's a fucking,
that's how they got the Kennedy.
If it's look at the phones that they blew up in
with Hezbollah.
Yeah.
Hezbollah.
And just so going back
The
to
pagers.
The pagers.
just going back to a leaked thing out of Israel. Like Israel, if they leak something, it was on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, just so you know, like they're pretty fucking sly.
Well, it wasn't Israel. It was the U.S.
Maybe,
Joint Chiefs of Staff.
But Israel would ask them to leak it so that it sounds like it's something that came from somebody else.
100%.
Like they're setting shit up. Like shit doesn't get leaked out of there.
There's two ways it go. That fork though, they're either deepening the setup, which is possible. The extra deception,
or
is
they're
the best.
trying to exit it.
Or they're trying to, like you said earlier, dampen it down, get a logical, reasonable, face-saving maneuver out of, well, the fucking Americans leaked this on us. We can't actually do the thing.
Israel's going to take out their nuclear capability.
I believe they will.
Like they're not going to stop till that's done.
Yeah,
they're not going to invade. They're not going to invade.
No.
Iran.
Well, but what Luongo and Craner were saying is now there's Russian soldiers in Iran and now there's American soldiers in Israel, which is like
There always has been.
Yep.
Always has been.
Russia's had a footprint in Iran because they've been working together in Syria.
Yeah.
There was a time in Syria where there'd be Spetsnaz, Iranian Special Forces, Canadian Special Forces, American Special Forces, and they're all fucking looking at each other. They're all working against each other.
There's videos even coming out like as recently as a month ago of joint American and Russian patrols in Syria, like joint patrols of contested areas, like heavily beat up areas.
Because they were going after ISIS, right?
So they're working.
So you mean joint patrols of Russians and
Of Americans, doing a co-patrol together.
Yeah, they would. So they wouldn't kill each other. They'd be like, because they, hey, just so you know, we're going to be over here too. I know you guys are going to be over there. You're killing ISIS. We're killing ISIS.
We all
Let's
hate
just
ISIS.
not kill each other, right?
So, and that's what happens. I mean,
so you don't always have like an officer in charge of all this shit. It'd be like a guy like Chuck or myself. Yeah. You'd see each other. You remember? We're working together.
Were you in Kosovo?
No, I was in Croatia Bosnia.
So I went to Kosovo, which was a fucking joke. But anyway, the NATO doesn't attack any countries. Bullshit. Because I was there. We couldn't use the main airport, which was half hour, 40 minutes from our base that had got set up there. And we had to go negotiate with the Russians because the Russians sent I think it was an airborne brigade. Anyway, these were monstrous dudes. Like these were Neanderthal looking Slavic Russian dudes who were they were your Dolph Lundgren movie lookalikes, all these guys. We show
Bigger
up.
they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah, well, they were some pretty big dudes. But anyway, you show up to this thing, and they were they weren't supposed to be there. They'd been told not to come there. They show up anyway, take over the airport, and it had to get negotiated out. Like, hey, we'd actually like to use the runway and stuff. It's like the only one, and they worked out a deal and stuff. Drank some booze, and I think
traded some smokes.
Well, our commander got fired over it there. What's his name? Can't remember his name, because he was drinking with them, and like he got dimed out by some other senior officers that didn't like him. Said, hey, there's no drinking policy here, or whatever the hell it was, and he's drinking with the Russians. Well, you had to work a deal. These cultures, these places,
everything happens over a bottle
every
of
business
vodka
deal in Canada is done over a drinky poo and a dinner. Like that's how people build relationships and do shit. You think soldiers are not going to throw a few back when you're dealing with the Russians? Like, come on. But it's anyway. The Russians are going to do whatever they want to do. They just are. They always have, and they always will. They're in Iran. We have Americans always in Israel. Always, yeah. Always. I mean, that's just the way it is. You look at BRICS happening right now.
And the reason that there's Americans there is because they've got this air defense system there. Now, it doesn't mean Israelis can't run their air defense system. I'm sure they could fucking figure it out. But there's also, like, if one of those guys does get killed, it does give the opportunity for the United States, if they feel they want to get in, then they
to
can
be like
in.
they're killing American soldiers.
There's that part of it too.
They'll
but it doesn't mean they will, right?
But they want the option. It's very hard to get punched in the face if you're not even on the ice. Yeah. They always have somebody like ready to throw on the ice wherever they are.
It's a shitty thing, but people do get killed for those reasons.
Yeah, it is.
We've been in, like, when I was in Croatia. Yeah. The United Nations would show up into a village, and there'd be reporters also there. The Croats would shell their own fucking village and blame it on the Serbs. But they would, like, you can look at where a round lands. By the splash, you can shoot a bearing backwards and figure out the distance of the size of that round. Okay, this would be a 5 kilometer max distance, and you could figure out where the base plate would be within a bearing line. We would drive that area, and we'd find like a mortar team. Like, we knew it was fucking Croats shooting at their own people.
Everywhere that happened.
But that way it would be on the fucking news that the Croats were killed by the Serbs and innocent civilians, but they're killing their own fucking people, right?
Yeah.
Like, war gets really shitty fast.
Really shitty fast. And one of the main differences between like a conflict back then in the 90s and now,
look in Syria, they gassed his name?
Al-Assad gassed tons of his own people.
Yeah, he gassed his own people to say it was ISIS.
Yeah.
Like, just terrible shit.
Yeah. And not that ISIS isn't bad enough already, but like to go after more of your own people just to that's what happens. Everybody does it, and this horrible part of war. But like, imagine, so you can go on Telegram and watch the war in real time. Basically, the Ukraine Russia war. You can kind of do the same with the Israeli conflict too, because a lot of that
was pretty cool. That drone video going into that room after that dude got wounded, eh?
Which
you see
one?
that?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. No.
Okay, so that last leader just got killed
Oh,
by
him,
a
yeah.
tank round.
Yeah.
He was wounded sitting in a chair, and they sent a drone in to
Yeah.
see who was in the building, and he threw a hunk of wood at the drone. Then they fired machine gun rounds in there. Like he had a machine gun and thermal scope, and they killed him with he died from a gunshot wound to the head.
Oh, did he ever?
So
Is that all on Telegram? Is that where that is?
Oh, yeah, it's all over Telegram, yeah. Because everybody's got a phone. Everybody has a phone. So it's just...
Oh, no, that was Israeli
I know.
footage
I'm just saying, though, the difference... Every soldier has a phone. You don't even need reporters in the battle. You rarely see a real reporter in the battlefield now. When we were there... Thank God, yeah, is right. They're just... But when we were in 06... In the early part of the tour in 06, we had reporters embedded almost constantly with every platoon or every other platoon. They wanted the story and tell the story.
I got to give a shout out to Chrissy Blatchford, though.
Like, her, yeah.
So
she was the real deal. But
yeah, but I hated her. Like, we were the first platoon to roll out. Like, and I went up to platoon warrant and my platoon commander. I'm like, are you guys fucking crazy? Like, we're taking a female reporter. She's like 50. You know, and like we're the first guys to go out. Who knows what's going to happen? Of course, that night we got we had a lav rollover, so we're dealing with a rollover lav. Now we got to get it back up on its feet, and the Americans are pushing us hard to split the platoon and push forward to combat. I'm like, don't fucking do it. Like, we got to get this lav back up, and we should stick together, right? Of course, they split the fucking platoon. 10 minutes later, they get down the road. Like, my lab got blown up. I stayed back with McKay, though. Anyways, Blatchford was in the back of that with Ian Green. And thank fuck that I found a seat container full of blast blankets and had all the blast blankets in the vehicle, or the driver would have got fucking wounded. Anyways, that's a different story. But then we did a big fucking march. Like, we went looking for these guys, right? And we're out for 3 days. Like, humping through the mountains, and she fucking rocked it. She had absolutely no problems with it. She smoked a lot, but she was a marathon runner. She was in great shape. And after that, I remember I was on the machine gun at the OP, and she came up, and I apologized to her. I said, I feel sorry for telling you shouldn't fucking come, and that you're a woman. And I was a total misogynist at the then, but then we became friends, and I had no problem with her. When was it Makeka that got shot in the throat? When we're in Panjway, and fucking she shit her pants. She was right. She got right up with the front platoon. I don't know. I think the guy was in C Company.
Was it Makeka, the reservist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beneka.
Oh, Beneka.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he. Like, his blood was squirting all over her. She shit her fucking pants, and then after that, she kind of stayed back with non-attack.
She didn't go back out,
She didn't come back up to the front. But
we had Lisa Laflemme with us for a chunk too, and by that point in the tour, the reporters were not coming out with us because it was like you were getting blown up or shot up, and it was all fun for them in the beginning when it was like, oh, this is new and nothing's going to happen. It's going to be like all the other times Canada's been somewhere, and then we're going into contact all the time, or we're getting blown up all the time.
Well, when we had that 500-pound bomb drop on us, we had an actual military combat photographer.
Yeah.
So we did a 9-line for Adams. The fucking helicopter lands. The Adams gets on the helicopter, and so did the fucking photographer. Reporter. He's like, I'm fucking out of here.
That combat photographer, we were about to be, earlier in the day, the same guy, he was French, little skinny kid, and we're in heavy contact. Like, we're about to get overrun. Like, things have gone horribly wrong, and it's getting bad. And I think it was my guy Ben Emery looks at him and says, get your fucking rifle over the wall and get shooting. Get shooting now. And this combat camera guy, who's basically a civilian in a uniform, he's an army guy, but not an infantry guy. Does like a jihadi unload.
But did his gun actually work?
Oh, he had an old C7
hard
but
stock. You know what they did in CAF?
No.
Because they were shooting, and in CAF, there was more Canadians being shot inside of the wire than outside, because they never fucking did any proper gun drills. And instead of like doing a timeout, let's retrain you guys so you know how to like properly unload your weapons and such. They told them to take their firing pins out of the rifles.
He mag dumped.
So they wouldn't fucking shoot each other in the fucking.
Well, he mag dumped, and then that was it. He just hid behind the wall.
Yeah.
So we're like,
probably only had one mag with him.
he might have. I don't even know. But he mag dumped, and we're like, later in the day after you guys got blown up, we're like, where did the combat go? Somebody's like, he got on the chopper out of here. He said, no, I'm not doing this. His footage, however, was immediately because he had about a day's worth of footage, was immediately back on the news here in Canada of us in combat, which was pretty wild. But anyway, we had Lisa Laflemme embedded with us up at the Red Devil Inn for quite a while. And we all kind of thought the same thing. Like, she was we all knew who she was. Big CTV news anchor. Was it CTV? It was CTV, I think. And we're like, holy shit, like, we're going up into the belly button into those mountains on foot here for like 3 days. That's going to be a hunting Taliban. And we're like, how is this reporter going to manage with that weight going up the hill? And worse, she had a camera guy who was in his 50s and not in shape, and she did very well. She had no problem. He was absolutely junk. Yeah, that's her. Yeah,
she's a good looking woman.
She was a fine looking woman back then. Yeah, she had Dave Pickett. Remember him?
CTV. She
was
Dave,
Pickett was in
chief anchor and
France,
senior editor of
France.
CTV National News.
Yeah, she was with us for a good chunk of time over there. I will say this about her: her and Christy Blatchford were the only two journalists, reporters, whatever you want to call them, that didn't try to fuck us over.
Yeah, no, Blatchford was awesome. She was a very good supporter.
Every other one of them worked actively to fuck us over.
She wrote a book.
What do you mean? What do you mean worked? How does a civilian reporter try and screw
so
you
what
over?
they try and do is they try to armchair quarterback everything that's happening and give their input. Yeah, like you might be.
They're a civilian reporter.
They don't give a shit. They want to be the news. They don't want to report the news. And so instead of like Lisa, I give
Blatchford wasn't like that.
No, she wasn't.
And in fact, she wrote a book called 15 Days. Yeah. And all the money from that book went to all the soldiers that got killed on our tour.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she was
She
wasn't
like that. And to everything I know, neither was Lisa Laflemme. She was very much just telling the story, which is what you're supposed to do, is just cover the story. They wanted to be these other reporters that we experienced wanted to be part of the story. And if we were doing a shura, like a low-level village shura, like, which is just a meeting with the locals, find out when they saw the Taliban last and what could we do to help you when you're hurt and mind, all this bullshit that doesn't work. These reporters would try to become part of the discussion.
Oh.
And you're like, my guy, you're fucking here just to witness and record. Yeah. Shut your mouth. Like, you aren't.
So I'm going to rewind this. I'm going to keep coming back to this.
You can't rewind it yet, though, because we got to talk about Afghanistan. Or should we do this after your rewind?
Well, no, I'm just not rewind. I'm going to keep circling back to it, because one of the things it's like, I always bring up with you guys hockey, right? I'm like, how do you explain to someone who's never played hockey, but the real world implications are going to align with real world hockey, some of the things you've learned? Now, obviously, I'm talking about the military, because you two have done things that most Canadians have not. Mm-hmm. Probably 99% have not.
Even within the military sphere, probably 97% of them didn't do.
Okay, so that's how small a company you're in. So I look at it and I go, rhythm of life. And I go, how do you convey to civilians, right, who I've never been shot at? I have no idea what that even entails. I don't want to go there. I'm not really interested in that. But you see what's happening, and you see the pattern of life. You see different things starting to play out, and you're like, oh, I can hope all day long that, let's just go best case scenario. Trump gets elected, folks, and within 6 months, he has everything calmed down, the border's shut, all the stuff they're stirring up in the media doesn't come to be, immigration slows down, no terrorist attacks happen, none of that stuff, just to wipe it all. We go back to common sense on the green agenda, and we don't have brownouts, and everybody's happy for another 50 years. Let's just play that scenario, right?
That's great.
How do you explain to a civilian rhythm of life so that they just, it's like introductory level to that? Because I go back to the book I was talking about. There's no way anyone's going to understand getting shot at or any of that.
It's like prepared for the winter, right? Like, so wintertime's coming. You got to like drain all your garden hoses. You got to make sure like your outside valves are turned off. Your eaves troughs are clean. You know, like you're just doing a little bit of preventive maintenance. You know, an ounce of cure is better than a pound of
putting winter tires on.
Yeah, like doing all
things.
your little things. That's if you can get that into your routine in life. Like, okay, I got my weapons here. I got lots of ammunition for it. I got like 3 months worth of food stocked up somewhere. You know, I'm in touch with my community. I'm still valued in my community. I can still do certain things as a team if something does go wrong. But you don't have to fucking dread and like chew your fingernails off.
That's where most people start with it, right? Or if
I may,
yeah.
When Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Murray said it, I was just like, I am unprepared. That's exactly how I felt. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's you know, you call them paper targets. I'm like, I felt like a paper target. I felt like a bird without my feathers on. I was just like, I feel really naked right now. I'm vulnerable. Yeah. And in turn, my family, I feel like if things like that start to happen, I'm like,
well, you feel that way because you got somebody to protect and take care of.
Yeah.
Right? Well, like if it was just you, you would feel differently.
Yes.
But as a man, you know, you got to take care of your wife and your kids. And that adds some stress, right? Like, because you feel like you're letting them down.
But we talked about this in very recent last couple weeks. This kind of thing. And the thing that puts your mind the most at ease, and this is why I'm fairly at ease about things, regardless of what I'm seeing as the trend, I can't stop I'm not going to try and stop what's trend. I can't stop it. I'm not going to throw energy wasted at something trying to stop what's coming, whatever is coming, whatever the thing is that might be coming potentially out there. All I can do is have the resources available to me to look after the people I love, the community I'm a part of.
Control what you can control.
Control what I can control. Yeah. Maintain a skill set that has suffered zero fade, if I may, and make sure that, you know, when you're facing down a giant, you're the guy with a sling and a steady pile of rocks.
Hey.
And that's all you can do.
Good hockey analogy, right? Like you got like Semenko skating around out on the ice and you got to be out there. You can't control what Semenko's going to do, but you can give yourself time and space, right? So that if he's trying something, you got an option. So that's basically what you're doing is you're seeing what's in front of you. You're giving yourself some time and space. You got your head up. You're not crying about it. You're not, you know, you're just out there and doing what you can do on the battlefield or on the hockey ice to, you know, achieve a win for your team.
That's how you have to.
Right. So your win is taking care of your family. Right?
When people will ask me, well, what should I be doing? I'm like, well, you should be cleaning up your diet, getting into some sort of physical shape that's better than you were today. Just do a little bit more than you were today. Something. Get in a routine that's a little bit better.
And you know what? What's wrong with that? Like, even if you never have to like use your fitness,
any of it,
yeah.
But fitness for defending yourself, you're actually keeping yourself healthier. You're going to live longer, and you're showing your kids that exercise is a good thing for them to be doing just to do it.
And the rest of it, honestly, is we've talked about this. Is just a little at a time. If it's a couple things here and there, a couple steps here and there that put your mind at ease, that's where you start to be like, stop chewing your fingernails. Okay, I see this pattern in life. I'm still going to carry on. I'm going to rhythm normally because I know if something happens, I'm as well prepared as I can be.
Chuck, it's like that cameraman that came out with you guys, right? Like so that cameraman had a great life in Canada. You know, and then all of a sudden he's in the fucking mountains of Afghanistan humping through the belly button. Like, I'm pretty sure he was fucking hurt.
He suffered horribly.
Right? So like
Dave Pickett beasted him.
So like if there's something if there's something that's in the future, might as well do it now.
Well, he was freaking the camera guy. We were getting ready to hump the mountain.
Threw a grenade at him.
So we were
pin in it,
we were all at the Red Devil Inn getting ready to go, and Dave Pickett was, of course, helping Lisa because you know him. Yeah. He likes anyway. So me and Ben and my boys were helping the camera guy get ready, like to hump up the hill, and this guy's he's 50 something, out of shape, smoker, just junk, and he's like, well, what else do I need to put in here? I feel like I'm carrying everything in the world in here. And I pulled a grenade out of my pouch, which it was pinned, and I shouldn't have done it because he freaked out. But I'm like, oh, you need one of these. And I underhanded a frag at him, and he did the whole thing, and the boys were laughing, and I was laughing. I got in shit for it, but it was funny. To me.
Only thing you never
He didn't find it funny. So he didn't take the grenade. I took the grenade back. But anyway, all you can do.
Thank God you did, because I got video of you guys in that grenade fight with the Taliban. They're like literally on a wall this thick, and they're throwing grenades back and forth at each other. And guess what? Our grenades weren't blowing up.
So a lot of them weren't blowing up.
So we ran through that compound after that, and there's like fucking 30 grenades laying on the ground that haven't blown up.
We got in the early part of the tour, we got a bad lot of grenades, like a bad run of grenades, and probably a third of them weren't popping.
So that adds a level of fucking stress when you're dancing through.
You're waiting for the kaboom 4 or 5 seconds after, and there's like no kaboom.
Throw another one.
So throw another one. Hope that one goes, and get the other one to pop too, hopefully, if you're lucky. But it adds a whole other, especially when you go to clear the room and dude's still in there fucking whiffing over your shoulder with his AK, and you see, once you clear him down, you still see this little green olive drop ball in the corner, and you're like,
and the thing is, they had yellow writing on it, right? So it really fucking, your eye catches it. It's like, oh,
you spot grenades real quick.
One of the things with the rhythm of life, right, is I go, COVID taught me this, and I wish I would have known before, but what can you do? You didn't know, right? Mm-hmm. Is if I had been doing what I'm doing now, I would have saw COVID coming, and I would have been able to adjust. And I truly believe that for everyone listening to this, we would have been able to adjust. Lots of you did, lots of you knew, and you found me along the way. But there was a ton of us that had no idea what the hell was going on. It's kind of my story of Ottawa, the spiritual side of my life, where I had no idea what was coming, and I ran headlong into it. And for people who have faith, they're just like, oh yeah, that's part of life. And for me, that was not the case. That's why I talk about all these things lots. That's why I do the Cornerstone Forum. It's to peer into the future and go, well, what's coming? Are we actually going to see brownouts? Are we actually going to see a terrorist attack? Is any of that going to happen?
Hey.
And how is it going to affect life on a big scale, small scale, and then for myself and all the other men out there, because I know that feeling of helplessness, I haven't done enough. And then I chuckle at myself because I'm like, I feel like I've been running a marathon, but I realize this is going to go on for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That feeling of trying to protect your kid when he's going November 5th or he's going to be in the States. It's Lord willing, someday my kid gets the opportunity to go play hockey somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have the same fears in a completely, hopefully different sense, but in the same realm.
You know what, though? You brought up Ottawa, and I don't know if you've ever done this before, and we're pretty good Canadians. We're pretty proud. I'm so proud of all those people that went to Ottawa and stood up for our rights. So here's a cheers to them men and women. Thank you. Canada still has people that will stand up, and I'm proud of that.
I think it's
that's cool.
It's what's interesting. So the first maybe very early phases of COVID, and I hate bringing up COVID, but in Canada, it's really the only pattern of life people have experienced and have really experienced. In the first couple weeks when we're getting all those reports from Europe, I remember seeing one report, 76,000 people in Italy have died this week or so. We're seeing all these fantastical numbers, and of course, nothing had really hit Canada. And we're starting to see 3 people in Alberta have been tested for COVID, and we're like, oh, what the fuck is this? This the bad? We just saw all these videos in China of them going around spraying, God knows what, on buildings and streets.
More COVID
probably, extra COVID, the good COVID, the gluten-free COVID, whatever.
Get rid of all these old people. They're costing us money.
And then I took a pause because here I am thinking, oh shit, maybe this is it. This could be it. And then I started to reach out to some Army buddies hey, are you guys doing any prep work for this? We do, there's a lot of stuff that Army guys do that are.
We did in Regina.
Yeah. Well.
I got stood up.
They stood everybody up and then sent everybody home. Guys didn't show up to work for months. And I'm thinking, they literally got sent home for months.
We were prepping to set up a field hospital.
Yeah.
I was
in Regina.
Yep. I was acting sergeant or section commander for a group of guys. So all of us ended up in a room all this like the sergeants and myself and the officer that were gonna do all this. And I could already see the writing on the wall, and I'm like, okay, guys, I know you guys haven't been in Bosnia or Croatia or nothing like that, but I'm just telling you right now, like from what I've seen in Civil War situations, if the government wants me to stand with them or stand with the people, I'm telling you right now, I'm standing with the people. Like, here's my line in the sand. And if they ask us to do anything against like a fellow Canadian, I'm not doing it. So I just want you to know that right now. And you guys might want to fucking think about that too before. Yeah. Like, you never know where that would have went.
But
you could have heard a pin drop.
Oh, yeah.
Because this, all of a sudden, everybody's like, oh, fuck. Like,
it's a decision point.
You just never really know.
It's a big decision point. And it's something that's war gamed, or used to be war gamed in our platoon lines when you're cleaning rifles or fucking stoves for the 30th time. You're like, well, if this happened, what would we do? Well, if aliens came, what would we do? How would you rob this bank? How would you rob that armored car? That's what Army infantry guys do, is plan all the worst heists in the world and combat aliens.
We talked about where do you think all the girls will be tonight? What bar are we going to?
Oh, that was a given. But where was I going with all that? The pattern of life stuff. If you're the Army guys that I was reaching out to, they're like, no, dude, I'm at home. Like, we're not doing shit. We're not going back for months. And I started to go, they would be the first people I would send to defend infrastructure, to back up hospitals. Now, some people did. Some medical personnel did. But if we were in a crisis, and I'm talking...
the nurses and doctors got deployed for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But you'd watch a movie like, is it with Matt Damon, is it Contamination? Is that the one?
Contagion?
Contagion, that's the one, sorry. And you watch how quickly a real, actual killing virus will spread and what it will do, and then the infrastructure of the military being deployed to hardpoint checkpoints and grocery stores.
Well, let's talk about a real thing. Like, that's a movie. Like, so let's look at let's look what happened with the Ebola, right? So like when Ebola was like running rampant, it was that in Freetown or what? They basically had like a corridor around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
and the Army was there, and anybody tried to fucking get out of that area,
even
if they got shot.
Yeah,
if they weren't infected or whatever, they got shot. Yeah. So they just said, okay, anybody in this area, fuck, you're in there until it's all over. Like, and they would send in people with all the hazmat suits on and shit.
But you know who we used in Canada instead of the Army? The hostess at the Earls you were going to check your ID, your quarantine card.
Yeah. Well, but so a couple things come to mind. One is rhythm of life, that type of thing. One of the things on the civilian side of the world is I feel like, when you guys are talking about being deployed and you're going out to the belly button of the mountains, it's like things are going to start happening real fast because you're walking right into it. Yeah. Like, we are going.
We're actively going to hunt it, yes.
I wish I would have had that thought when I went to Ottawa, because you're actively going into it.
Your mindset has to be that.
I was so fucking proud that you did go. I remember talking to you on the phone, and you're like, I'm going. You're on the road fucking driving there.
But that's like active. Cool. When you're just sitting at home, it takes time. And I'm trying to wrap my head around this because, like, one of the things they talk about is like what's going on in Britain. It's going to take time, but you'll eventually see it here in Canada.
Oh, totally.
Right?
They just arrested a guy
for praying. For praying.
But silently in his head.
Yes, silently praying.
In a zone.
He got charged for that.
Yeah, he's doing 3 years. He's going to do 3 years in jail.
Is it 3 years?
Yes, for saying a prayer in his head. And it was inside of a zone around a fucking where they do abortions. Apparently there's like, if you're on this side of the sidewalk, you can yell and scream all you want, but once you're like in front of the building, you can't say nothing.
You're not allowed
this guy
to think.
said a prayer in his head silently, and fucking
it doesn't get any more
going to jail.
George Orwell's 1984 than that. Like, that
doesn't scare the shit out of you.
Yeah. Well, look at what they're doing to Jordan Peterson.
He was an Army vet too. Army vet convicted for praying silently.
How many years is he getting?
I'm just looking at that right now. It says a man charged for praying silently in an abortion buffer zone in Bournemouth has been found guilty in a shock ruling by Bournemouth. I hope I'm probably torturing this name. Bournemouth Magistrates Court. He charged Adam Smith Connor, a military veteran, father of two, following an interrogation by an officer, the nature of his prayers, where he stopped to pray for a few minutes near an abortion facility in November 2022. The court sentenced Smith to a conditional discharge and ordered him to pay prosecution costs of 9,000 euros.
Okay.
So it isn't 3 years.
So what happens if he doesn't pay the money?
Well, then I assume that, yeah, it doesn't say. But I mean,
he'll do time. I apologize. I thought they said he was going to
no,
jail.
well, that's why I look it up, right? I didn't see that.
It'd either be pay the fine or do the time.
You need a Jamie from Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie.
Hey, listen, I'm fucking right here.
No.
I told him last time.
No, a smart one.
I am smart. I said, number one, take the wheels off these chairs and don't make them swivel.
It's true. We will get that taken care of here at some point, right? We got big things coming for the studio. Lots of good ideas and lots of things that
I kind of like the way you got it laid out now. I do like your ideas. I liked your original idea, but your second idea would work too.
Okay, I'm going to go back to this thought, though, of the speed of which it happens when you go into a danger, right? Mm-hmm. I talk about, one of the things I learned about Ottawa is now when I leave my home base, which is Lloydminster, and it's not a sleepy town, but at the same time, it isn't, like unless something's really happening, it's just life is normal. Mm-hmm. But when I move away from here, spiritually, I feel like things are going to attack you. And if you walk into, I don't know, Kelowna and they're having the giant forest fire, that can happen too. Mm-hmm. I think that's something to wrap your head around when you're talking about rhythm of life. It's like, listen, you're getting news from the entire world. Things are happening all the freaking time.
It's overload, yeah.
And they could bomb the crap out of Iran tomorrow.
Yeah.
They could use a nuclear bomb.
Could be doing it right now. And we wouldn't know over here. Mm-hmm. We'll hear about it. And certainly there will be things that happen after that. And one of the blessings we have about being in Canada specifically is you should be able to see it coming before it ever gets close, right? There should be time. Maybe?
Well, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, we got immigrants that are going to be flooding the border if we're not prepared for that now.
Well, but I'm like, how do you even prepare for that? Because November 5th is like literally around the corner.
Well, that's where you got to start phoning your MP and writing letters to your MP saying, hey, listen, I don't want the RCMP carrying luggage across the fucking border this winter when Trump's carrying everybody out. I want you guys to fucking not let anybody into Canada unless they're legal citizens. And if people don't reach out to their MPs, then fucking the wheels are going to fall off the wagon. Like it's up to us to voice our concerns now to the federal government and provincial government. Say, hey, start fucking wargaming this because this is a possibility.
This is pivotal, and I think historically the election November 5th is going to have an importance that's going to ripple across the world that people really don't fathom right now. I think they do. I think instinctively and atmospherically people can feel.
The Democrats are going to fucking say it was stolen. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be riots. There's going to be fucking shit.
The shit will go down. But that ripple also, we have our own coming up in next year, I guess. When
it's going to be before then.
I don't know. He won't go.
I kind of agree with Chuck.
But what's this scandal that's going on and with Trudeau's not giving up the unredacted stuff? Nothing's happening in government. But I mean, today the Liberals are telling Trudeau to fuck right off.
Yes.
You're
not wrong.
There's shit
You're
going
not wrong,
on there right now.
He will not go. He
won't
go.
The party will tell him to go. If they say we have a non-confidence as you as our leader, then they can kick him out.
And maybe they will. Maybe and hopefully they will. I kind of want him to hold on for this next year just so that he can because this
nobody's going to jump into his place and win the Liberals.
No, I agree.
No, not at this point.
The quicker he gets out, the less money we spend, and the quicker we can get back on our feet.
So we can all agree Justin Trudeau has very strong ties to the WEF, right?
To who? Oh, yes. Yeah. George Soros' WEF, yeah.
So you look at that and you go,
well,
why aren't they booting him out?
Why aren't they? He's a useless dummy for them for now. They don't.
Yeah, I know, but they're destroying what they're trying to build.
The destruction is what they're trying to do.
Maybe that's why the Liberals are fucking going to tell him he's got to go today because that's the message.
And it could be, but in my opinion, the destruction is the goal because it's once you destroy, erode, the cultures that built a place, doesn't matter that it's Canada. They do this wherever they put their fingerprint. Yeah, South American countries, they do it there too. France, you look at wherever they put that WEF fingerprint on, that thumb, it's not to rebuild something in some better way. It is the destruction of, the trampling down of, and the watering down of, and that's the goal, because that's how they maintain this very easy influence. They don't, and I've said this for years, everybody, because you always have people approach or question about the UN Army. They're going to occupy us with the UN Army. Listen, folks, there's no fucking UN Army. There's no standing UN Army somewhere, because it has to be.
We send soldiers to represent the UN.
They have this.
That's how
they
it
have
works.
this delusional illusion that there's this standing force of some mythical vanilla.
Well, I don't even think it's. I think it's in movies even.
Well, it is.
We when we trained in Cornwallis, we would bring African nations, like their officer corps, into Canada and train them how to be a UN, like, so they could do peacekeeping missions. So we taught them like rule of law, like shit that they don't have in their own country. So we would and tell me, why the fuck are you in the UN when you're creating atrocities in your own fucking country?
But
and then you're gonna tell other people in the world, like, and send your soldiers over there to fucking police them.
It's a horrible
Like,
idea.
it's just,
they did it.
the UN is so fucked up with all the fucking countries they brought in that shouldn't even be in there.
But my point
But
is,
we would, but just getting back to the UN Army, and so that's how people got mistaken about it, is like, because they would see fucking guys with the UN, and we would train UN soldiers in Canada, but it was just for rule of law reasons and how to actually conduct yourself.
the best, honestly,
on a UN
the best
mission.
thing that could happen to the regular people in any country is they send the UN, because then you have a focus point to fight. They're not. That isn't what's going to happen, because that it just isn't the thing. It's not a real thing. They don't need that to be a thing, because they don't need it. They have local law enforcement, which we've seen through COVID, are more than willing to enforce the most draconian, wrong stances and policies possible that have done more harm to the society than anything has done in the last 100 years, in my opinion.
But Chuck, you know why they do it? Because they all got a mortgage.
Oh, 100%.
And they all want their fucking pension.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with the
I get
military
it.
and our police and everything else.
I get it. I understand
If you don't
that.
fucking pull the party line, you're not going to get promoted, and you're not going to get a good pension, and you might get fucking removed from the force.
Yeah.
And now how are you going to pay your fucking bills?
Yeah.
Like they're like, our system is set up so the government's got control over the police and got control over the military. And that's the issue. So when they wanted General Eyre to send the army into Ottawa, General Eyre said, and I'm just thinking this to myself, two things. Number one, it doesn't fit the criteria for the emergency measures. Number two, my soldiers aren't going to support this because their mom and dads are standing on the fucking line in Ottawa.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do that. So guess what the army wants to do now? They want to bring in 25,000 immigrants that are not Canadian citizens that will turn their guns on us. So that's another thing. That's another fucking thing we got to worry about and start writing our MPs about.
Yeah. That is a thing.
It's
they didn't know.
This is this troubling thing, right? You can see all these things happening almost simultaneously, right? If we don't go to World War III, then you go, well, they got Bill C-293 that could put us in a different type of purgatory, and if they don't get that one through, they got Bill C-63, and if they, if they don't even do that, now they're going to reduce what it takes to become a military officer, so they take it down a pole. They're going to put in all the DEI stuff. Oh, and wait, we're going to bring in all these foreign people to be a part of our military. And you're like, you can see it all happening all at once.
Yep.
But it's I'm going to keep harping on.
But you keep saying preparing, like doing push-ups or whatever. Well, notifying the government, like writing your MLA,
is an active way.
And you know what?
That's a lawyer, Lisa Myron.
At least
thing.
you're doing something, and it makes you feel good that you're doing it.
And even as writing them and all that, doing all that, sure, it may have an impact, I guess. have one on your show. You have a voice here. You have a big audience here. You have
a senator on.
Have somebody on that you can talk to
I
and
know
say,
one.
this is what I'm hearing from regular, normal Canadians, not the people in the bubble. You know, that echo, their own echo chamber.
So going back to the COVID stuff with the hockey Sask, we wrote Mo, and I was very fortunate. A very good friend of mine, smart as fuck. She helped me like put my big jumble into like sentence form where it made sense, and like I got a letter back. Did he write it? I hope so. But you know, Mo did move on certain things. Hockey Sass did move on certain things, and a group of us were very vocal, and we fucking phoned and we wrote letters, so it does work. And
I know there's a percentage of people out there listening right now, because I get this question all the time, or this statement, this counterposit about, well, Chuck, we're not going to fix anything by voting. And I always ask very pointedly, specifically, other than voting, what do you think you're going to do or we're going to do to change things? Just if the vote isn't going, tell me specifically. And they always kind of go, oh well, because in their head they're thinking we're going to go to hot guns right away, and we're going to fuck this government right out of Parliament. We're going to run a show. I'm like, you know where they sent guys like us over the years was to places where they tried that. We don't want that. That is the last thing any country.
That's the last resort.
That shouldn't even be considered.
So funny thing you're talking about.
None of them have a solution. When I'm like, well, tell me what not voting looks like. Tell me what your not voting.
Well, you should go.
Can I tell you a funny story? But it's not funny. A terrible story about not voting. Do you know why the NDP are so they get all the like urban seats? Is because conservative voters don't vote. There's enough conservative voters in the cities of Saskatoon, Regina, Estevan, Moose Jaw, that if they actually showed up and voted, the conservative member that was running for that seat would actually get elected. So that's the fucking terrible thing of what you just said. That people say, oh, my vote ain't going to matter. Yes, it fucking matters.
It does matter, yeah.
And lots of blood has been shed over that
So that
ability for you to fucking vote.
Well, I'll tell you what. We've reached such a pivotal point in our history, and such a degraded point in our, you know what, we all have a decent lifestyle, I think, but our dollars aren't worth shit. I could go spend $1 at something, that's not $1 anymore. This is not what, this is going up.
Yeah,
gold is going up.
This is $40.
And people,
he's pointing at the 1 ounce silver coin.
And people should pay attention to that. If you don't have to even have any of this.
You should.
You damn well should.
Head over to the Silver Gold Bowl.
Silver Gold Bowl.
Because
selfish promotion, but I mean, do that and mention me, and you're going to save yourself money and all that good stuff. Anyways, and you should.
I have,
even if it's not a ton, you should just have a little bit.
I have a nice
It'll
little,
make you feel better at night.
Oh, dude, like I said at the Cornerstone, I pull out my little hoard, like the little dragon hoard I have, and I run my little fingers through it, and I play with it, and I listen to it tinkle, and that gives me some solace, because if something goes wrong, this might buy me a tank of gas. This might buy me whatever.
You already know that I'm not going to mention everything on air, but like on my side of things, I've slowly started to do just little things. Yeah. Nothing like the simplest
That's all
one.
I can do.
The simplest one in Lloyd is we just built raised garden beds. I was against having a garden 5 years ago. I was just like, why do I need to garden? It's just an extra thing.
You got your seeds for next year?
We've got partial. I would say I probably need to go buy some. Hey, Garden Girl, you listening? Garden Girl, I should give you a call.
Have your seeds. Like you should already have like a year or 2 years of seeds already.
So my thing is I've been. There is a lot of things that I should have already had that I do not have, and I'm just saying. Well, we built garden beds, right? Yeah. And the cool thing about it with the kids is they love it. I didn't realize it, right? As a parent, that's something that I didn't understand, that kids are like just wowed by the fact that things grow out of the ground. It's
and they can
really
see it.
Freaking cool.
They actually see it grow.
Yeah.
And it's fast. The thing about a garden is a lot of that stuff, I mean, maybe not certain things, potatoes or whatever, but a lot of stuff comes in so quickly, and the kids are like, that's that just happened.
It's not fast for an 8-year-old.
No,
they're like, fucking,
no, but an 8-year-old is going to go away, watches a week's worth of TV shows, come back out and say, holy, we have, stuff is here.
Well,
like,
actually, little things, like with the 8-year-old, Shay, he, playing board games with kids has been, it's been tough.
Yeah.
It just means you got to have patience. Anyways, we play a game of sequence, right? Where you got to get 5 in a row. Well, bugger beat me twice in a row. Like,
nice.
and Mel goes, were you trying? I'm like, oh, I was trying. And then she laughed at me. She's like, oh, yeah, you were trying, all right. I'm like, I was trying.
I can tell you a funny story about my 8-year-old after you.
Well, I mean, I was just, like little things don't have to be going out and buying 10,000 rounds and then a year's supply of seed and 8 months of water. And it could be little things. Yeah. And to me, one of the things that really proved well in my hockey career is I could see where the game was going. And I'm like, how the heck did I ever get taught that? I've been racking my brain. But as a young kid, my brothers I always had to play their games, and their games were cards and board games that had strategy to them, which means you have to think ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it could be as simple as that. Anyways, sequence.
Well, that's why I teach chess to officers. It's all about the strategy, right? Like, that's why chess was developed, to teach you how to think ahead on the battlefield, and like that
and realize giving up a pawn, although it sucks,
Yeah.
if you win the larger game, that's what you're after.
So going back to my 9-year-old,
yes.
He's not 8 anymore, just turned 9. Anyways, he wanted a Bible. He wants to read the Bible, so I bought him a kid's Bible and like this little light that kind of, so at night he reads the Bible. So I come into his room, we're going to say the Lord's Prayer, and he's like reading, and he kind of puts the book down, and like he's got blue eyes and blonde hair, and he looks at me and goes, Dad, why did Jesus have brown hair and brown eyes? I'm like, well, he's from the Middle East, and Middle Eastern people have that's their skin tone, and that's the color hair they had, and we're Scandinavian, we're from northern part of the world, and we have blonde hair and blue eyes. And then he just flips his book back up and starts reading again. I was just like, that's the answer I needed. I'm carrying on. Yeah. And it's just like, they're so cute. Like when they're
sponges, man. They suck it all up.
But like the questions they think of it's hilarious. Like,
but to go back to your pattern. This is what the show is about, the pattern of life.
Well, I wanted to talk about
No. And it should be, that's a great focus to have, because we kind of dance around it sometimes, but
that'd be a good t-shirt, actually, pattern life.
Rhythm normally.
Pattern or rhythm?
Either one.
Patterns of life is what you're looking for.
Yes, and then
but you have to rhythm normally.
Rhythm normally, or you're going to go nuts.
Yeah.
But so again, people will ask me, because of the background and whatever, and some stuff they know. They'll be like, "What do I want to do this, but I only have X amount of money, and I'm like, look, and I was listening to Jocko Willink and David Goggins, and I just feel so far. Look, if you want to live getting up at 2:30 in the morning to do, that's on you. That's great. I've talked about that before.
Doesn't cost anything to do a push-up.
It does, no. But what people will wrap their head around is, if I'm so far behind, I'm so far behind now, I'll never get to where I need to be. And you have to start. All you have to do is start. If it's one day at the range a month, or if it's the garden, if it's picking stuff up, if it's cleaning up your diet, if it's whatever it is. Look, I had to hard assess myself about 6 months ago. I was like, dude, like you're not looking the same way you used to. You're not taking working out as seriously as I was showing up to the gym. I wasn't really moving weights around. I wasn't eating as clean as I should be. Especially, I'm 52. I have to be, I don't want to be the winded soldier, the winded warrior. I need to be the actual, be able to defend what's mine. And I never want to be the guy that when I walk in the room, I'm like, look at this old tubby, old fat veteran. I don't want that. I need to be what I once was. I need to, for a lot of different reasons, but I think the way the world is going, and I started to catch those, signs about 6 months ago with a few different things happening. Yeah. And I've always noticed the patterns of life, don't get me wrong, but something atmospherically changed, and I don't know what it was. It was a combination is what it was, probably. I had to take another hard assessment, start actually taking working out seriously again, start actually eating cleaner. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have a few beer here. I'm not going to do that either. I'm not that. But
well, but once again, that's so we all think, like what I'm trying to like train myself on because of where I sit and the conversations I have. I think in the at times in the sense of it's a race, like it's a 100-meter dash, a 25-meter dash. Yeah. And what I'm learning is sitting in this chair, you're so ahead of the curve at times that it's actually like 6 months out. Maybe it's 2 years out. And, in the case of Ben Davidson this week, he's talking about 2035. Mm-hmm.
And it could be.
Martin Armstrong's talking about 2032.
Could be this afternoon.
It could be. That's just it.
It could be. And so, but what do you? It's like, what are you going to do between here and this afternoon?
And that's what
you can just start. You could just literally start.
Yeah.
You could go get your, on the simple things of guns in Canada. Go get your PAL.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have it. Then start to add a few shells in.
Mm-hmm.
Set up your, if you're a Bitcoin guy, set up your Bitcoin wallet. That actually doesn't take that much, but it does take it a little bit because it isn't as simple as going and opening a bank account. I will say that utmost. Shout out to Bow Valley Credit Union on that, who are helping bring the Cornerstone Forum to Calgary as well.
Nice.
Because when I tried doing it through the ATB, my entire account got shut down. When I went and did it through BVCU, it was like smooth operating process. I told Brett that the other day because like that was in the States. My entire bank account was locked out. I couldn't get into it because I tried buying, not a Bitcoin because that's way too much money, but like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
People should look at where Bitcoin is as well. It was the other day at an all-time high, I believe, or approaching an all-time high, like 73K, I believe. So when people start to see commodities that are not
$93,000 Canadian. Canadian.
Okay.
But here, max. We'll go max, and it's like right at it's close to an all-time high.
Yeah. So when people look at these outside currencies or hard commodities, you can contrast that because why is that raising? Because people are losing faith, have lost faith in fiat currency.
It's the same thing as the gold thing. I said, I say in the intros right now about gold being, what's the word I'm looking for? Resembling trusting. It's like, what's the faith in government right now? And what's the trust in government? 100%. What's at all-time lows? Gold's at all-time highs.
Yep.
Very similar.
But circling back about getting ready, and it's as simple as this. Like in the Army, once you take out the enemy position, you move ahead. You get off the position. That way, if you don't, you consolidate. So you start with a shell scrape, right? Because you're ready for a counterattack. So that shell scrape goes to like now you're in an actual trench. You just keep improving your position. Now you're in an actual trench. There's two of you in there. Now you're building overhead protection. Now you're digging comms trenches. Now you're building wire obstacles in front of you. Like you're like, cause you could be counterattacked once you're digging your shell scrape, but at least you got something. Right? A shell scrape is just low enough for you to get in so your body's covered for shrapnel. But you're always improving your defensive position. And then that way, if something does come, it could be right away or it could be years down the road, you got something to be in or pull back to. So the same thing in life. Like if you want to get ready for tomorrow and you're not fit, do a push-up. If you need some to get into gold or silver, instead of buying beer, buy some gold and silver. Like it's just something you can
it's just
figure out a plan and
little every day. Like take the push-ups for example. Like most people probably couldn't knock out 10 push-ups if they're not regular gym goers or whatever. They couldn't do 10 push-ups. Start with 5. Do 5 a couple times.
There's
and you do it right in your house.
I remember
do it with your kids.
4-ish years ago. My brother, we read a book. Tools of Titans, I think it was what it was. I think. Anyways, one of it was a push-up a day. And Harley got down in the middle of one of our book club meetings and did his push-ups because his alarm went off on his phone, and when it went off, he just started doing it. And I made fun of him. I was like, whatever, right? And then I got home that night, and I'm like, what if he's right? Screw it. So I got down and did a push-up. And the thing with a push-up is even if you can't do 10, I bet you can do 4. I bet you can do more than 1. And all of a sudden, one push-up isn't a push-up a day. It actually, because once you're down there, you're going to do, is it 5? Is it 50? And you'll laugh at it at the start. But eventually what happened is I went from doing 1 a day, which was never 1 a day because it was usually 25 to 50 a day, to up to 100 a day, and one just go because you get so good at them, till I got bored with them and I went back to the gym. I was like, I just need to.
So when I was trying out for selection, I was already in Recce Platoon, so we had an amazing, like our warrant he was there and he knew you had to be in shape and all that stuff. But when I'd go to the bar, every time I drank a beer, I'd do 40 push-ups. So that paid off in spades because when I did my PT test, my physical training test, I'm fucking just pumping off these push-ups. I had some French warrant, he's watching me, right? So in my head, I'm counting. I get to 40, and 40 is when he should be telling me to stop. I got to 40. He said 1. I'm like, oh my God. So fucking, I had to do 80 push-ups just to fucking get through it, right? Yeah. But it was like, holy fuck, I don't know what he's looking for, but I better do something different. Oh my God. So it's
a little at a time.
Because I was fucking doing extra more than what we do, because we basically in Recce, we'd work out at least 4 hours a day. Yeah. And then do other physical stuff during the day. But if I wasn't doing those extra push-ups after every beer, I don't know if I would have got through those 80 push-ups.
Well, and we all reach points in our life where we coast a little. I caught myself about 6 months ago, like I said, where I was like, you're kind of coasting, dude. You're not really putting in the 10K steps a day, at a pace. You're going to the gym 3-4 times a week, but you're kind of just attending. And I caught myself doing it. I was like, yeah, I'm pumping out whatever my bench was and whatever my my other weights were for my exercise. I'm like, this isn't. I'm just showing up. I'm not really doing nothing. I'm not eating as clean as I should. And then I had like a Jocko Willink moment where I was like, I'm not getting up at 3:30. Don't fuck that. I'm retired. I'll get up when I want. But I was like, when I'm in the gym, I'm gonna do it with some intensity. I'm gonna actually set a little bit of a goal. And so it just got a little better over 6 months. I'm like, shit's coming together. And then in a year, those improvements, and then you do the same with your garden, your canning. Yep. You do the same with every little aspect like that. Because you tighten it up.
Because it could happen tomorrow.
It could happen
Or it could be 10 years away.
It could,
and guess what?
It may never happen.
Guess what?
And it may never happen.
It might happen during your kid's life, like when you're dead.
Yeah.
But at least you set them up with good skills.
Yeah.
And a good outlook in life, so that it's not doom and gloom.
I'm sure
you could be dead and gone, and then they've got to go through this. But because of you taught them how to garden, you taught them how to shoot, you taught them how to survive off the land.
Faith and morals.
You taught them how to be morally correct. You gave them religion, so they have faith. That takes you a long ways. Like you're setting your family up for success. If it doesn't happen in your lifetime, it might happen in your kid's lifetime or your grandkids' lifetime.
Everybody, right? I get that question or this, what are you going to do if it really happens anyway? And that's a discussion we can have. But, but I'm always like, listen, do you have house insurance and car insurance and life? Well, yeah, of course I have house insurance and car insurance. I hope I never get in an accident though. I hope my house doesn't burn down. Well, I hope the world doesn't come to a crashing shitty end with a EMP, a solar flare, a nuclear, whatever the thing might be, and there's no end to what they could be. If the fucking aliens come down and say enough with all of you, I'm as ready as I can be, and I will be the guy. I don't give a shit if I'm the only guy. I know I won't be. There's others as nuts as I am who aren't going to just go quietly into the night. It's just not going to happen. That's not how I'm built. So it doesn't matter what's in front of me. Like I said earlier, if you're looking at giants, you better have a sling and a bunch of stones because you can knock them down.
Here's the other thing about that, though, too, Chuck. So as you're preparing for the future, if it's a terrible future, you're connecting with other people that are like-minded.
Very much so.
So what you're doing is you're actually creating a community, and that's something that our communities have lost. Like Lions clubs are shutting down, the Elks clubs are shutting down. Like, we got to get back to community because in terrible times, community is what you need to survive.
But nobody's, you know what? That's a great point, actually. And volunteerism is at the bottom of the lowest it's ever been because everybody's working so much just to be able to afford 2 bags of groceries. Volunteerism is so difficult.
Yes, but I'm going to put a but in there.
Yeah.
People, I don't know if it's lazy. I don't want to.
There is a lazy element.
But like, you can give more than what you're giving.
Oh,
100%.
totally.
And I know that because I do it myself. And at times, I'm personally like the lazy one. Like, I don't know. I don't have time.
We
it's
all do
It's
it.
the easiest thing we can put a crutch on. Oh, I don't have time. And everybody goes, well, yeah, you're working real hard. It's like, careful. Because we can all give more.
Yep. Oh, totally.
And when it comes to community, that's really, really important. Actually, it just reminds me of what the Cornerstone, like everybody said they loved all the speeches, loved all the talks, roundtables. But what they loved even more than that was the hours after it was done where everybody was together. You were connecting to your community.
Oh, you could feel it.
And the problem with all the institutional groups, and I put the Lions Club right in it, I put all those in it, is when you stop speaking truth about what's actually going on and you get into this realm of where we're at in society, they're all going to fall apart, man. Like, we're all it's like, we're not going to talk about some of this stuff. Like, some of this stuff is complete batshit crazy.
Yep.
Like, we gotta speak openly.
And guess what community does too? It keeps everybody honest, right? Like, so everybody's got a role to play. You know where you are in your community, and community will keep you honest. Like, if you're out of line, they're going to bring you back into line because, number one, they respect you or they like you and they want you to be part of the team still. You know, so community also is like a good check stop for people as well. It keeps you straight and honest. You know, you're showing up with your kids. You know, you're doing all those right things, and you're going to create value for your family in the future.
Well, like you said earlier about the kid, whatever happens to us as dads, I mean, you have to have at least given your kids that value. That's a valuable insight, is for them to see how important community is, and it just isn't. Everybody fails at it on some level or coasts through it on some level at some point, and you try and be like, you know, once your kids are older, they're kind of doing their own thing for sure. Yours both have younger kids, and it's a hugely important thing because everybody's so isolated now. You have more social media than you can, or access to information, and everybody's dumber.
You know how many books my daughter read last night? 10.
Holy.
So one of the
That's
things,
more than you've
Jesus
probably
Christ,
put away
I've
in
never
your
done
life.
that in my entire life.
so one of the things.
Comic books? What kind of books are you talking here?
One of the things. Oh, definitely not giant
Picture
books.
books?
She's grade 2.
I
She's
read
grade
lots
2.
of picture books.
So like one of the things that their school does is they have like how many books you should read in a month, and every time you read a book, you get to color off a thing.
Yeah.
And my kids are wired like me. They want to color them all in. They want to do it fast. There's probably a little bit of competition at the classroom. Anyways,
Competition's good.
she had 10 left last night, and so I
Nice.
read 2 with her. And she said, "Could I read a couple more in bed?" I'm like, "Okay, a couple more, but go to bed, okay?"
Yeah.
Okay. And she was so excited every time she was coloring one off. I could hear her, and she was
That's
like
hilarious.
vibrating on the floor
That's
as she
hilarious.
read the same book, the next book, another book. She came home and she's like, "Only got 3 left." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh my God.
Then I had to text my wife because I'm like,
Can't stop her.
she just read 10 in a row. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. And then she comes out and she's like,
Let
"You
her
text
go.
mom," and she was just giddy.
Yeah, let
I'm
her
like,
go.
well, I mean, compared to like social media and all the other stuff,
Yeah.
like that's just
Reading was honestly one of the best things that ever happened to me as a young kid on the farm. Like, my folks had boxes of books, the old Louis L'Amours and every other.
the Louis
you know,
L'Amours.
from the time before I was that big reading, and my kids, my wife and I both made sure reading was just something they became addicted to, and they both still are today. Reading will get you out of this place. Reading will teach you. Reading will it's so important, and people don't read. I used to read a couple books a week. I love reading. It's whatever the adventures, the historical, whatever. Now, because I'm in the truck a bunch, I just listen to the books. But it's still taking.
I don't know. Some of the audiobooks out there are phenomenal.
Dude, some of the narrators, you're in the book. Like it's so good. I mean, there's something that will never replace holding a book.
I did audiobook of 1 Second After.
Did you listen to it?
I did.
Wild, eh?
Well, as soon as Chuck came to the farm and And so we ran through some things, and one of the things was 1 second after. I'm like, all right. So I went and listened to it. It's Atlas Shrugged in a newer version. Not Atlas Shrugged. Alas Babylon, sorry.
Yeah.
Alas Babylon in a newer version. And shout out to Vance Crowe if he ever listens to this. Vance Crowe's book club read Alas Babylon. And I remember thinking, why the heck are we reading about a nuclear bomb going off and people having to survive? And then now you read the, in my opinion, the newer version of that, which is 1 second after. It, for me, hit me different being a father.
Yes.
This man being a father and having to go through some things. Man, I was...
and community.
Yeah.
It's not... Yeah. Most of these post-apocalyptic type books are just the thing went off or the thing happened and now we're all... And don't get me wrong, there's elements of that in there.
What was that noise effect?
Pew, 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 pew,
pew, pew, pew, pew, pew, pew.
But what it is...
No. I just want to... It can't be a shirt.
Why can't it be pew, pew?
Because it's gay.
Pew, pew?
Yeah, that's gay. When you make that noise, you sound like
pew,
you're gay.
No, I can have that on my shirt because I've done
it. I tell you what, I'm going to have a pew-pew shirt for the next time he comes here.
I'd tease the fuck out of you right now.
I can't wait to all be wearing pew-pew shirts.
Pew-pew. I'm not wearing
them.
Hey, make them pink. You wear them all you want.
The thing I took, one of the big takeaways from that book, there's several books in that series, by the way.
In the 1 second after?
There's several. He wrote. There's 1 year after is the next one, and I forget what the third one's called.
Really?
Yeah.
Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
Shoot. Now I'm gonna make me suck the crap.
Oh yeah, they're good. The first one is the iconic moment.
Yeah, but that's because it all is falling apart.
But the community is what you take away from it, like how they all band. Even the people who didn't necessarily have great relationships, how if you either band together or you don't.
Well, Chuck, we saw that in Bosnia.
Yeah.
So we would like patrol up into the mountains, and you got to go check. Like the community would be totally flattened, like the war rampage through their area, and the people would move and live in these fucking caves. Like, but when you go into one of these caves that they were living in, it was like decked right out. Like they had all kinds. Like it was like they were set up. But they were out of the battlefield. They were safe and they're secure, and like they had beautiful little dwellings in there. And so they put together like a generator to generate power. And this was a terrible moment in Canadian history. But anyways, they asked for one of our sections to come there. So 10 guys with a Grizzly to come down there, which is a lightly armored vehicle, to stand this mast up. And the guy that did it was like our mountain operations guy. Like he knows all the ropes and rigging and shit. So he dug a hole in the ground and he, it was like 4 or 5 feet deep, and he had like a ramp so that the pole would slide in there when the carrier was standing it up. Like this pole's like 60 feet high with this homemade generator they got on top that's going to power this little mountain village. So anyways, as they're pulling it, they got it tied to the sides so it doesn't flop left and right. And then it's anchored to the vehicle, which is pulling it up. But they forgot to fucking back tie it. So once it gets stood, it's going to stand up there.
And then fall right on them?
No. What happened was the commander said, okay, stop. It's perfect. So now they can backfill it. So when the guy engaged the brake on the vehicle, it rolled ahead like a foot. And it was just enough to pull the whole thing right over, and it come crashing down. The generator exploded. Everybody in the community was fucking pissed off. The commander was like, "All right, everybody in the vehicle, time to go." This whole community is like just mad as hell. So the next
could we talk about that for a second? Actually,
sure.
I don't know if I've ever whenever we talk about that Civil War, we talk about the cities and how much devastation. In the book that I brought up at the start, that's what he lived, was a city. And I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, they were a lot of them were blown to shit, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and
Sarajevo, where we were outside. We weren't in it. We were outside of it depending on the OP, very close to it. That's like it was just devastated, completely devastated.
So, but I was in Croatia though, and every village was flattened. Like where there'd be a nice, beautiful village was flattened. Like Bankovac wasn't flattened, but all the villages, like there might have been 40 or 50 houses in a village, complete. Like if you look at videos of Ukraine, that's what these were like.
Yeah.
So,
But when you went out outside of the village, these flattened villages, how far did you have to go out before you found people just living normally?
Cool.
Well, no, they would live in rubble of these villages.
No, I understand, but you just told me about a mountain village. You go out and
that was in Bosnia. That was a different situation where they could escape it. Like in Croatia,
but I just
the Serbs almost cut Croatia right in half. Like they were 5 kilometers from the coast. So this was a highly contested, like highly volatile area. So there was lots of shit going on, like in a certain, like maybe a 20-kilometer wide point to cut the country in half. So that was our area where we were down, like with he was up in Sarajevo. We were down in Croatia.
We were.
So is there no option for those people? Because
so what happened?
Just look at where we live now in Alberta.
But what happens is
you can exit the big cities.
They pull the people out of there. So in the summer, that's the fighting months. All the civilians are extracted out of that area. They get pulled right out of that area because during the fighting season they don't want civilians there. So during the winter months where they're grazing their sheep, they need that area to have their livestock to be able to survive, or they're trying to rebuild their houses, or the Serbs are laying claim to Croatian villages. So like there's stuff that's going on in the winter, but come the summertime they pull everybody back to other villages where they could actually have running water and
where we were outside Sarajevo, I don't think I saw a normal anything. Everything was
it's all fucked
if
up.
it wasn't actively being, I mean, there were, depending on the observation post you were on, and I don't remember which one it was that we were on for about a month, they were actively engaging each other like full on combat.
It wasn't until 97.
Within hundreds of meters of us daily. Like
it wasn't until 97 where people were coming back to their original villages.
Yeah.
And that was part of our job as NATO, is like to reintegrate, like Serbs back where the Croatians were, and the Croatians would go back to where they were supposed to be, and the Muslims would come into their Muslim regions, and so it was like a reintegration of people, and just to make sure that nobody was fucking.
To be honest, I'm quite shocked that they don't have more issues there.
Well, Bosnia is about to kick off again.
I would, yeah.
Like there's issues there.
There are issues there, yeah, but I couldn't even understand that they were able to reintegrate at all, because you talk about some of the worst atrocities imaginable. They've all been done there. Like we got to see firsthand what a wiped out village looks like with the entire family dumped in the basement. Or they talk about mass graves, and people get this image in their head. Well, that must mean X thousand of people is a mass grave, or X. You line up a village of 300 people, put them in a ditch, cover that with about an inch of dirt, so that their feet and parts of them are still sticking out. That's a mass grave, and you see enough of those, and you understand just how vicious all three sides were. There was no one gooder side than the other. They all three sides.
The British were looking for a new camp in 97, and they kept finding DNA in the water. They're trying to find a fresh water source. Well, it all led back to this rock quarry where they were like taking train loads of people to this rock crusher, and they'd grind them up. Like, well, they're alive. They'd just throw them in these rock crusher, and then they would be like, there was flooded old parts of the quarry that they dumped this waste into, and then that would leach into the river system, and they're fine. Like it's unfathomable the shit that people will do to each other.
And don't forget, this was a place that just had the Winter Olympics a few short years earlier.
This could happen like in any country, Canada included. And
people think, I know there's people out there shaking their head. Nope, could never happen here.
Well, but here's the thing: we like the brown shirts like stood up for Hitler because they believed in what he was doing. During the COVID times, I saw people that would wear brown shirts and stand up for what our government. And you see them today.
And I think
look at Freeland and look. Well, our worst problem. Let's nobody's talked about this yet, but fucking look what Singh is doing for his pension. Like, so. Quick note: I went down to Ottawa for the opening of Fallen Heroes. So mentally I'm thinking, okay, I don't know who's going to be there. Like Singh could be there, Trudeau could be there. Thank fuck they didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
I met the army commander, great dude. Met up with some Afghani interpreters that got out. There's probably 25 of them there. Had a great conversation with those guys. I was so fucking happy to see those guys there.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do the closing remarks for the movie, which was an honor. Senator Marty Klein asked me to do that, which I did. But just, it was just, I haven't met an Afghani interpreter since like 07, since I was there in 07.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy to hear about these guys being there and hearing about their families and how they got out and how horrific all that was.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's going on in Afghanistan right now? The fucking Taliban has outlawed opium. So they've got a strategic reserve of opium. So the opium prices have shot up.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what they're making opium out of now? Fucking some chemical that China's giving
another
them.
fentanyl.
It's some kind of fentanyl, but they're making synthetic opium now. And they've outlawed like poppy opium in Afghanistan now. But for two reasons, because they're making more money off the opium they already got, and it doesn't cost as much to fucking traffic this other opium that's made chemically. But the Taliban has such a great system of disputing or getting it throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Chinese are actually using the fucking.
Oh, China's got a
Afghanis.
huge footprint in Afghanistan for their
they
minerals, oil. So does Russia. Russia just had a Taliban delegation to Moscow like a week ago to discuss oil and minerals.
But it's more minerals than oil.
Yeah, it's definitely.
But you know why fucking China is happy with Afghanistan right now? Because they got Bagram Airfield.
Yeah.
Bagram Airfield is literally within fucking an hour's plane ride of the nuclear storage and testing area of China. Mm-hmm. That's why it was such a Trump wanted to keep
Trump
that
wanted
airfield
to keep it, yeah,
so he could be within striking distance of that nuclear testing area.
And when we've talked about this before about the fall of Afghanistan and Kabul, he stated thoughts
he
and
had
claims.
the perfect plan.
He did. We're going to hold Bagram. We're
and,
not going to
Kandahar.
And he's going to hold Kandahar too.
No, the Canadians were going to be in Kandahar with the Aussies and the English, SF, and then Bagram was just going to be American.
But even when Biden took over and completely foobarred that whole thing up, he didn't even close the right place down. He closed down Bagram and tried to use the Kabul airfield,
yep,
which was just idiotic. I mean, of all the many stupid things that man has done in 50 years, that might be ranked among one of the top stupid things.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck. So the way that it's been told to me is that when the Americans pulled out, they didn't even tell the coalition forces that were there. They just fucking disappeared in the middle of the night.
And
then when the president woke up in the morning and his security detail was gone, he packed a bag of fucking money, went to the airport, he left. And then when they phoned the president in the morning, all of his generals, the fucking president has left, and so has the Americans. So then they all left.
Yeah.
No wonder the place felt like a deck of cards.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking just up and ran. Even the coalition guys are like, what do you mean the Yanks have fled in the middle of the night? Mm-hmm. Who does that to other nations that are supposed to be your allies?
Well, NATO's going to win the next war, though.
Fucking Biden did.
NATO, we're set to take on Russia. Don't you worry.
Oh, come on, Chuck. Let's not go down that road.
Do you think we could take on Russia? NATO?
I think we could.
Oh, you've had way too many beer.
No.
Way too many beer. With what? What are we going to take them on with?
Oh, Chuck.
We don't have anything
what
left.
What time is it? It's almost time for you to have a nap. Christ's sakes.
Thanks for coming in, boys.
Yeah, what?
Hey, I love you, man. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for answering the call. I throw out the call and you put up the bat signal. And pew pew and a guy with tons of hair, I guess, on the back of his neck. Both come. Thanks for doing this, gents.
Hey, thanks.